Dark Destinies of a Dying Day. The hermit sat in the reverse lotus position on the cold, hard floor of the cavern. He was old, with a scant few hairs clinging to his bald head, and a thick, white beard worn in several plaits that reached nearly to his waist. His skin was pale and covered in whorls of ancient ink whose patterns pained the eye and mind to follow. He sat atop the sigil of an order of ancient mystics, with greasy tallow candles burning at the points of the symbol all around him. He drew a breath, and in it he smelled oil, steel, and blood. That was when he knew he was no longer alone. The hermit opened his rheumy eyes and found himself staring at a man. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a scarred, craggy face aged by the elements. The animal hides he wore blended with the rocks around him, but the steel in his hand was no pig iron forged in a rock furnace among backwater hill tribes. The blade of his sword gleamed hungrily, and what the hermit could see of the leather-wrapped hilt told him the weapon had been wielded until it fit the man's hand perfectly. He wore no accessories but for a single black tooth hung from a cord around his neck, and a boiled leather vambrace set with bronze studs that was as much a shield as a piece of clothing.
"Welcome, outlander,"
the hermit said, his voice a dull, dry croak as he spoke for the first time in years. The outlander made no move to reply, merely staring at the hermit. The old man pursed his dried lips and changed to the language of the river people.
"Ia subaren."
"I understood your greeting well enough," the man said. "You are the one they call Narasha." The hermit blinked in surprise.
"I did not know there were any alive who remembered that name."
"There aren't," the outlander said, "except for thee and me."
"Ah,"
Narasha said. He slowly raised his hands from atop his knees and held them out toward his guest.
"I have nothing to offer a slayer such as you, friend. All I have is clean water, a vegetable garden, a hard bed, and an old hearth."
"I seek the Book of Al-Faraz," the outlander said. A cold chill went up Narasha's back. He felt the instinctive urge to swallow, but his mouth had gone dry as the high hills outside his sanctuary. The hermit lowered his hands slowly until they once more rested upon his knees.
"A dire thing to come all this way in search of,"
he said, speaking slowly.
"And a rarity to meet someone who knows of its existence."
"You have not denied you have it," the outlander said, taking a step into the room. "I have need of it." As the man stepped closer, the light from the candles caught his eyes. They were hard, narrowed with purpose, and the poisonous green of a crag viper. The outlander stopped before the outer circle of the sigil, the toes of his boots never crossing the line carved into the stone. The candle flames flickered, sending shadows dancing about the room. Narasha did not look away from those eyes. He knew that if he did, it would mean his own death.
"What purpose would a man like you have for that tome?"
Narasha asked. "I seek a prophecy within its pages," the outlander said. His grip tightened on the hilt of his blade, and his knuckles went white as he spoke. "The words that speak of the blessing of twins."
"The co-joined destiny,"
Narasha said, the words falling off his lips before he could take them back. That was when the outlander smiled. It was a terrible, painful smile. A baring of teeth that made him look less a man and more a wolf. "Just so," the man said. "Now bring the book to me, or I will find it while your blood is still fresh on my blade." Narasha unfolded himself from where he sat and stood. His limbs trembled, not with hunger or age, but with fear. He had read the Book of Al-Faraz and had seen every word inked on its blasphemous pages. It was filled with the words whispered by the prophetic head Verhu that the Basilisk had then demanded stricken from the record and forgotten by all who had heard what he had said. Anything that suggested weakness in the living God, or which had spoken of other forces who might unseat or slay him, were buried and forgotten. The apostate Al-Faraz had once sat in the chamber with the Basilisk itself and recorded its dreams. And though he had his tongue torn from his mouth, his eyes blinded, and his hands broken, he had still managed to record these words. Words that would be weapons in the hands of the Black Basilisk's enemies.
"Do I have your word that if I give you the book, you will leave me in peace?"
Narasha asked. "I will," the outlander said. The hermit carefully stepped back toward the small, recessed cavern where he made his bed and kept his most treasured possessions. A stack of vellum scrolls with the words of monks 1,000 years dead were placed high on a shelf. A series of woodcut images depicting the 7 hells of Aragesh were placed with their images toward the stone so they could not be accidentally glimpsed. Narasha whispered a small prayer and slid his fingers into a seam that was all but invisible if one didn't know where to look. The stone slid aside, and beneath it was a small book, bound in serpent skin. It was cool to the touch, and seemed to writhe against his hand as he lifted it from its hiding space.
"Take it, outlander,"
he said, proffering the book.
"Please, I wish only to be left in peace."
The outlander took the book and opened it. He thumbed through the pages, his eyes dancing over the words as he found the prophecy he sought. He nodded once and closed the book. "My thanks," he said. The words had scarcely left his mouth when Narasha felt something cold in his chest. The hermit looked down and saw steel protruding from his breast. The blade had gone in so quickly and so smoothly, there hadn't even been a kiss of pain. Narasha struggled to raise his head, realizing he couldn't breathe. He tasted blood in his mouth, and it dribbled over his bottom lip as he attempted to speak. "Your reward," the outlander said, wrenching his blade free. Narasha collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut, the world around him going gray as he felt cold seeping into his body. "Now you will know peace. Forever." Thank you for staying to the end of this story. Dark Destinies of a Dying Day is the introductory tale for the tabletop RPG supplement 100 Prophecies and Proverbs of the Black Basilisk. It was my first entry into the grim setting of MÖRK BORG, though if you all enjoyed the story and wanted to see more, it may not be the last. So please, if you'd like to see more stories and supplements like this, pick up a copy of the supplement for yourself at the link in the video description below, subscribe to the channel, and share the story around so that others can enjoy it as well.